All right. Hey Nadine, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. I just want to jump in and start off with you being a mental health advocate and also a filmmaker. You're probably well aware of the stigma of mental health and how it's portrayed in films. So it's kind of like a shorthand for this tragic backstory of a character. How do you view the current landscape? And then what do you hope to change with how we start representing people with mental health in films?
I think that the landscape is changing, which is tremendously amazing good news. Because as I fought tooth and nail to A, make this film, B, once I made it, find it a home, I was definitely met with a lot of adversity. Like a lot of people who just felt like the world wasn't ready to talk about mental health. And especially after the pandemic, which was crazy, they would, I mean, I literally was told they want Ted Lasso. They don't want your movie. And I'm just like, but they can have Ted Lasso after they watch my movie. I think both have a place in the world, you know? And unfortunately, I said to them, I believe that this is an approaching pandemic of itself. And what's unfortunate is I have a feeling that you will change your mind, but the worst part is it's going to be after there's a lot more loss. And lo and behold, I was correct. And almost everyone in my circle has lost someone to death by suicide. And it is a problem. And I do think now the world is realizing, oh wow, if we don't start talking about this, I mean, it's going to get worse, you know? And so I think they're really open to the conversation now. Is it as open as I want it to be? No, but that is why I made this film. And this is why I'm shouting from the rooftops every opportunity I get how important this is. You know, the entire reason I made this film is because when you're in it and you're in that darkness, you don't feel like there's anyone else that feels that way, especially because most of the time they're probably not talking about it. You feel like a burden to your family. You feel like something is really wrong with you. And, you know, I always use the word, even though I really don't like it, but I felt like a freak. Like something is wrong. No one else is this way. Why am I this way? And that's half of why you're like, oh, I'm defective. I should probably, you know, make other decisions. And it's so completely incorrect. I mean, even just statistically, there's more of us struggling with it than there aren't. There's more of us with mental illness because what's really crazy is I didn't even know being an addict and like being sober, 9 years sober, they're like, when I was at a mental health panel, they're like, that's, you know, an addiction is mental health. And I was like, oh, I have everything in mental health struggle. Like, oh, okay. I'm like, I've checked the boxes, you know? So it's like, there are so many of us out there. And that is why I created this film. And where I would like to see it go is everybody talking about it, is like making it like a movement of people explaining how they are today so that everyone starts doing it and starts doing it in their own lives. But like one of the biggest things for me is our healthcare system. It is so expensive to afford any mental health services. I can't even. That's why I created my nonprofit to get youth the mental health services they need continue on, because I'm like, this is a problem. If I can't afford this as a 35-year-old woman, what would our youth do? And they are one of the highest rates in death by suicide. So I think that that's a huge problem, and we should all rally together to see changes there. But another huge one for me is that we need to start teaching in schools about mental health. We teach you about your body. We teach you about sex. We teach you you're going to get a period. We don't teach you anything about what to do with the emotions that are going to come with that puberty, what's going to come when you get that period, and you know, and all of the changes we go through from our youth on. Like, I mean, my 20s were a mess, you know, and I wish someone would have been like, hey, let me help you out. Let me tell you what you're about to go through. And I think we need to start setting people up with the life skills that they're gonna need. We all need. I don't care who you are. You have had a day where you're sad and where you just don't want to go see your friends, or you don't want to leave your house because, you know, it just feels like a lot. I mean, I'm socially like, it's hard to get me off my couch. And that's not even about my depression. I'm just also an introvert sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, what you said about like not having trouble accessing mental health it hit me like moving states and trying to get my anxiety meds and trying to get the prescription filled crazy, absolutely crazy. So I understand completely. So continue. It's a very personal story to you. It is, I think, loosely based on your own experiences. When did you feel like you were comfortable enough to turn those experiences into art? And then while making the film, how did you protect your mental health from like going back to those dark experiences?
Yeah, so honestly, how it started is it was many, many years later, and I was in an acting class, and I was starting to really want to write, and writing is like such a huge part of my life. Now it was like something that I knew I needed. And then, now I'm like, oh my God, how did you ever live without it? So I was just starting to dabble with finding my voice, and I would write scenes from my life that are in the movie now, and I would put them up in class. And when the class would finish, everyone would come up to me after and they'd start telling me, like, me too, or this is my story, or like literally in tears and asking if I'd write scenes for them, and or can they be in the scenes with me, and just like try and like, look at their stuff that they were experiencing. And I just had this huge realization, like, holy shit, this could be a vessel. This could be a way to help people. Like, maybe if I put all my pain and my experiences out there, it'll get other people to do that too. And that's exactly what it did. I go to screenings now, and people like line up to talk to me, and they're telling me things maybe they've never told anyone in their life. I mean, sometimes they're literally like, I've never told anyone this, but I attempted to, or this. And I'm just standing there and we're crying together, and I'm holding space, and I'm just like, this is why I did this. And maybe they leave here and they call someone in their life and do the same thing, and so I wanted to spark a conversation, and I started to realize that the only way I could do that was being really, really brave, and putting my life and my pain and my experiences out there. And then part two to your question is, I I think the real answer to that is that I had such an amazing support system around me that I knew I was going to be safe, because I had a lot of people who loved me and who wouldn't let me get lost, wouldn't let me get lost in that darkness again. So everywhere around me, I had incredible human beings and collaborators and people who had joined on this mission. And also, when you make it about someone else, I would pray before every time we said action that whatever I did in that scene, whatever was about to come forth, let me be the vessel for whoever needs to see this, whoever this scene, this moment in the movie, just let me be your vessel. And I find when you make things about being of service and about other people, you leave the experience actually feeling brighter, stronger than depleted, and the other parts of that, to not have my answer be too long, but it is that I have so many different tools in my toolbox that I did not have when I was 23. It takes finding the tools, having the bravery to put yourself out there. And, I would say this, I have an army to keep me mentally healthy now. I have a meditation coach, I have a life coach, I have a therapist, I have a psychiatrist, I have a nutritionist, I have a personal trainer, I have like, and it's expensive. And I'm like, well, mama's got to work because mama's got to stay healthy, but it does. It takes an army, and it takes being honest with yourself. When I see it happening now, I immediately will go to a meeting because I'm 9 years sober, or I will immediately be of service, or get outside of myself, or do opposite of what my brain says. Because a lot of times my brain will be like, you're alone, no one cares, and all the stories start, and it gets really loud, and I'm like, oh, well, that's bullshit, because I can text 5 people right now who I know will show up for me right now if I needed them. And sometimes I do. I'm like, hey, can we have a session? Or hey, any chance you can go on a walk with me? I mean, you guys, if you're struggling, get outside, breathe, and get physically active. Sweat, it gets you in the present. I mean, it has changed my life, getting physically active when I feel my body dipping, my mind dipping.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was a tennis player, dropped it in my 20s because, as you said, the 20s are wild.
Yeah.
And then got back into it. And it is crazy that just fresh air and exercise is amazing. So aside from also starring in the film, you wrote, directed, and this is your feature debut, if I'm not mistaken. So what was that feeling like of having this entire crew of actors, crew, lighting department looking to you for answers? And how did you feel about taking on this monumental task?
I felt good. I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to like girl boss, you know? No, I mean, and honestly, maybe I wouldn't have felt that way if I didn't get blessed in every single way with the best collaborators around me. I mean, every single person who found their way to the film was obviously divinely given to me and all had a tie to mental health or suicide or some kind of connection, depression. Um, so it was so personal to everyone, not just me. And so it was really an army and a family. I mean, everyone, when I talk, like, you know, last night was the premiere and we were talking to all of the cast or the people who were a part of it. Every time the word that keeps coming forth is a family, a family. We were a family. It's an experience I've never felt on any other set. Blah, blah, blah. And truly, I think because it was so much more than just making a movie, it was really, really personal. And I think that's what you can feel in the movie. It's like not a single one of us wasn't showing up 100%, even though we were exhausted, especially me. It's like, oh, let me simulate drunk and let me cry my eyes out. And then let's also stay here for 16 hours and let me get there 2 hours early tomorrow. And, you know, so it was a lot, but I always say that on my way to my passion, which was acting and like why this whole journey started, I found my purpose on this planet. And writing and directing is now primarily my life. I actually haven't acted since Continue. I'm only writing and directing now, which is such a surreal thing that it's like we have such grand plans, and then the universe is like, ha ha, you thought you had it figured out, you know?
Definitely. Congrats on the premiere last night. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask about the ending without spoiling it. It's hard to call it like a twist, but it is kind of an unexpected way that you go. So, if is there's anything that you can talk about if it was always how you envisioned it without spoiling it for those who haven't gotten to see it yet?
Um, it was the first thing I had before anything. I started at the ending and I worked my way back, especially because um, I knew my purpose. and 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 how I end the film is my message. You know, I want people to be here tomorrow, and you have absolutely no idea how many paths your life will alter by not being there. You know, it's like all the people we love and who love us, we change their path forever. All the people we will never meet, we change their path forever. And and I want that to stop. I want them to stay. And I was like, and I had to fight for that ending. I mean, because Hollywood really, A, doesn't like to talk about mental health, but they really don't like when some new filmmaker wants to break all kinds of rules. They're like, what? And I'm like, hello, this is how we found all of the best filmmakers. And like, you know, in different times, we loved original stories and we loved rule breakers. And now we're like, no, 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 we need commercial, we need rules, we have a box, and you go in that. And I was like, I'm not going in that box. I'm not changing the goddamn thing. I know what this film is and I know what this message is. And and so I stuck to my guns and I had to make it, I had to invest my life savings, raise every dime of capital, did it, you know, had to do it in a very homegrown way. And in my opinion, and what's really funny is like most people are like, I can't even imagine if you didn't have that ending. It would be good, but it like that is your film. I'm like, I know. I told people that. They didn't hear me. They didn't listen. You know, and it's just like because the other thing is, and like the last thing I mean, it's hard. I always try not to spoil. My producers get so mad at me. They're like, don't say it. I'm like, but I want to tell everyone everything. But I will say, I don't think the people who are struggling would relate to the pretty girl that gets everything. You know, that life is perfect after that attempt. And the truth is that is because when you're in it, that doesn't feel possible. It really doesn't. It doesn't even feel like tomorrow is even possible sometimes, you know, and A, that's why I made this film to show them that like tomorrow everything could change. But B, I had to fight because like 23-year-old me that ended like where everyone wanted it to end would have been like, oh, fuck that. You had me and you lost me, you know? And I was like, I'm making this for 23-year-old me, for it's not just 23-year-old me. I mean, it's still very much 35-year-old me. I still struggle, you know? And so I made this film for me and my audience, and I had to risk that there might be some people that were really angry with me. And when people said, people are going to be mad at you. And I was like, good. I hope they tell all their friends how mad they are at me. And I hope they fucking talk about it, you know?
Well, thank you so much, Nadine, and congratulations again. And I hope that this film really, everyone who needs to see it gets to see it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching.
Thank you. Absolutely. You have a great day. Okay.
You too.
Bye.